Let's watch Preach's video. Which one should I watch? Should I watch number 1 or number 2? The second one?
Last week, I said that Heavensward had made it to my number 2 of all-time favorite RPG stories. And I put in the comments, it's like, if you want to have a spoiler talk about this, let me know, because I don't usually like putting spoiler content on the channel, but this stuff is years old. And you guys overwhelmingly like, yes, let's have a little conversation about it. So I wanted...
I'm gonna, like, I've not seen, like, all of the stories in Final Fantasy, but, like, I thought the A Realm Reborn story was just as good as Heavensward. Heavensward was much more, there was a lot more Hollywood Michael Bay explosions, but I actually thought that it was just as good. I am super fucking excited to do especially Shadowbringers, because I see so many pictures, there's so many fucking thumbnails of X reacts to Shadowbringers and they are crying. You know, like, that's the thing is, and also Stormblood too. Like, that's the next one that I'm at. Yeah, I really, really like, I've cried like 1,000 times. I don't remember the last time I cried during a video game. Oh, it was whenever I lost the role for the, there's a mount in, like, Wrath. And, like, there's an item that I didn't really want, and I rolled a 100 for it. And then the next mount, the item that we rolled for after that, was the mount. And I ended up rolling, like, a 20. And I didn't get the mount. And so that was probably the last time. I had to buy the mount off the guy for all my gold. It was really shitty. How old were you then? I was 20 years old, and I beat my head against that wall right there so much that my neighbor turned on his light next door. He's the one that moved away, by the way. Let's go ahead and watch the video.
Do that today. I want to explain what I interpreted from it, because everybody will get some slightly different things. And I really want to focus on one particular aspect, which is the Dragon Song War, and essentially the two characters that I mentioned in last week's video. The really subtle and wonderful things they did in order to create these two characters to one conversation and have that conversation have as much impact as it had. Now, many people will know that the finale of this, obviously we're in spoiler territory now, is the big fight with Nidhogg and the rescuing of Estinian and all those kinds of things. But that's not really the point that I loved. The point I loved was actually the conversation a little bit a while ago, which is Sir Emmerich meeting Herelsfagar and convincing Herelsfagar to change his mind. Now, Alphinaud is involved in this a little bit and actually makes a pretty vital contribution to this, but it's the conversation between those two and how we get there so that that conversation has that much impact in order to make it work. Because we have to get these two characters, one of which we met in A Realm Reborn, which is Sir Emmerich, who does not have the most welcoming presence when we first meet him. And I think some people forget this, especially if you played A Realm Reborn a long time ago, is that Sir Emmerich's first introduction is not great. And Herelsfagar, who is a new character, and we only get to meet a couple of times, but in those two meetings, they really have to establish the pain and the suffering that has gone on with the dragons and also the people.
I thought they did a really good job with that, with, like, all the, like, going back in time, because you guys got to remember, like, Radagast was the one of the broodmates of Nidhogg and Herelsfagar, and I think also, like, Bahamut, because they were all Radagast. Is it not Radagast? Well, look, they said it in dragon language. I don't speak dragon. Yeah, I don't fucking speak I don't know what he said. Yeah, I thought, like, I mean, I don't fucking know. I called Medivh Medivh until they fucking said it in one of the cinematics. How am I supposed to know? I was 9 years old. It's not, I know it's not Radagast. But anyway, that's what it was.
Of Ishgard. So there's so much to do there. It's going to involve some little characters that I think it's really worth talking about how they did that and
that was great.
How good it was in order to have this massive payoff that affected so many players. All right, let's have a look.
Okay. Here we go. I feel like every time that any show or any YouTube show has, like, one of those news channel transitions, I cannot not think of Killer Keemstar. I'm gonna be honest, like, I cannot. I expect to see him there with the popcorn and the microphone and the G Fuel hat, RIP. And, you know, I expect to see him there and, you know, let's get right into the news, you know? And then it's like some fucking drama between like two 14-year-olds on TikTok. And it's like, it's so fucking stupid, you know? Like, that's it. Yeah. I can't get
I want to start off with Heavensward.
Okay.
So, in order to get to where we need to be, we've got to sort these two characters out. Now, I'm going to come back to Sir Emmerich because I have a lot more thoughts about him. But they have very little time to deal with Heavensward and make him impactful. He's a dragon, which helps, right? Talking to a dragon, even if it's Vidofnir or someone like that, is a great moment in the game regardless, but Heavensward is more than that. Heavensward is the one who can turn the tide of this battle, and we learn as we move up into Dravania that Heavensward is there, he's very strong, and he's a very big deal. Now, the way they do this is very, very cool. Very cool. We learn from Vidofnir, it's like, Heavensward doesn't want to talk to you. He's in self-imposed isolation.
He's pissed off.
This is what's going to happen. He won't talk to you. It's going to be bad. Lady Iceheart, Sail, is pretty confident. It's like, we can try. We can try. So off the Warrior of Light goes on this journey into Dravania in order to try and contact Heavensward. And along the way, we deal with Moogles and things like that. However, how do you make this character important enough to be the biggest part of your eventual payoff? Especially when we really only have...
This one was my favorite cutscene. Of all cutscenes, this one was my favorite. It's like this, yeah, I think, yeah, of all cutscenes, this was my favorite cutscene that we've had so far.
A couple of blocks in order to make this work.
Yeah, it was.
Now, what do you think of when you think about dragons? Is they're ancient. They have wisdom. We've met Midgard Soma. We know the level of power they carry. Their history is really long. And we also have to bear in mind here some really cool stuff that Squeenix did. Is that as far as we know, as the player, especially because we have been given one side of the story, is that the dragons are bad. Like, for the most part, the dragons are bad. It's only Lady Iceheart who is saying to us, no, they're not bad. This is a human problem. Well, all of Ishgard for generations has been taught, no, the dragons are bad. And why wouldn't they think that? The dragons are constantly attacking Ishgard. They have murdered untold amounts of Ishgard people. And from the day you are born, you are taught to fight dragons because they are coming for you constantly.
Yep.
So this is an awkward moment we're in, because why would we believe Lady Iceheart? For the most part, certainly in her introduction to Realm Reborn,
she's a bitch.
A villain.
She's a fucking...
Right?
There she is when she walks right by the Warrior of Light. I was right there. Make a citizen's arrest. Make a citizen's arrest. Like, she's walked right by you. Yeah, an attack of opportunity.
Estenian comes in. Now, Estenian is vital to the way this is going to play out. Not just because of his epic moments and him becoming Nidhogg.
It's my favorite character, 100%.
It's more about his mind change, and this is what I loved so much. So on this journey, there's this constant and very, very rigid battle between Asel and Estenian. In fact, in one video I mentioned I shipped them, that they were going to get together at some point. These two opposites were going to attract. Yeah,
it reminded me a little bit of like Illidan and Maiev. And it was like during the Legion quest line, it's like if there was a cutscene of them banging it out, all right, yeah, this fits, okay. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with this, absolutely.
But they didn't even go down that road. Instead, what they wanted is to establish Estinian as the only person who could change Sir Emmerich's mind.
No, they don't have any the Final Fantasy characters, as far as I know, we've had so far. There has been no main character that's had a romantic interest in anyone. And why is that? Well, it's so the players can ship themselves with whoever the fuck they want. I genuinely think like that's probably what they're fucking doing.
Now, let me expand on that a little bit. Estenian is the Azure Dragoon, and he is born and bred to slay dragons.
The big cock king.
That's it. He only
His
knows that they
family was
must
killed
die
by dragons
in order to save Ishgard from the dragons. Why? Dragons are bad. They must be killed. They've killed so many people. We're going to get that done. So on our way into Dravania, we have these small moments where we sit around the campfire.
Nidhogg specifically.
And the greatest element here was that throughout this journey, we start to see Estinian change his mind. This is fantastic. Estinian is changing his mind, and this is going to be so important later on. He looks around, and in most video games, and this is where it starts to already change the course of what you expect from video games, he accepts the truth that's before his eyes. And so often what we see in drama and we see in other video games is that despite overwhelming evidence, some people just stick to their initial idea.
Yeah, I've seen that in my chat a lot. I think that, to me, like, the Estinian thing was like, I feel like he compartmentalized the fact that he didn't like, it's not that he didn't like dragons, he didn't like Nidhogg. And he fucking killed Nidhogg. Boom. Done. That's it, he's gone. Like, now what?
Even when presented with so much fact and counter to what they should believe, they stick to it.
Yeah.
And there's a wonderful campfire scene where Lady Iceheart is explaining, it's like, no, man and dragon lived in harmony. He's explaining Shiva and obviously Herelsvigar alongside that. He's like, they used to live in harmony. We used to be friends. Only in Dravania, when Estinian is sat there and we're all around the campfire, does he look around and go, yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think that's the case. And although he is staunch in his efforts to kill all the dragons, because that's the only way to bring peace to Ishgard, what we see is that he's like, something's not right. And this is such an important touch that's going to come into play later, is that Estinian, the most single-minded murderer of dragons, is now looking around and going, the things I've been taught are wrong. Clearly, look at the artwork, look at the decor, look at the architecture. Clearly, this is not accurate. Okay, so we then move to Herelsvigar. And
See, I feel like Estinian only really did that because he killed Nidhogg. You see what I mean? Like, I feel like he killed Nidhogg, so, like, the villain for him was gone. I mean, like, he's dead. Like, I killed Nidhogg. Like, that's the guy that caused me, this happened before he killed Nidhogg. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but, like, he did kill Nidhogg. I feel like that's a big factor. I don't think that there would have ever been a point where Estinian was like, you know what? Let's let Nidhogg do Nidhogg. That was not going to happen. He was going to get his ass no matter what. This is before, that's what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying, yeah, I know. Yeah, he still wanted to kill Nidhogg, which ironically was the reason that Nidhogg wanted to kill all the humans, too. Nidhogg continued to attack. Well, Nidhogg killed his family, and that's why he didn't like Nidhogg. Like, he was fine with the other dragons, pretty much, but Nidhogg was different. So after Nidhogg was dead, it's like, okay, then, you know, like, we'll see what happens. That was like my read on the situation.
This is our first real introduction to Herelsvigar, and it's so crucial because the first thing they need to establish is that Herelsvigar is a tragic figure, sorrowful, vengeful, and wise. Now, these are really scary when put in combination with each other. An overwhelmingly powerful creature who is full of vengeance and is ready to tip at any point and could easily eradicate us. How do you establish that very quickly? And they did that in the most brutal, horrific way possible, but it was genius in order to establish Herelsvigar's character. And that is that Herelsvigar immediately, one, knows exactly why they're there. These two wise, he knows exactly why they're there. In fact, both our main encounters for Herelsvigar, he knows why we're there before we even get there. And everybody looks shocked and stunned, like they come up with this enormously intricate plan in order to convince him and get his help and to plead their case. And as soon as they approach, as soon as we, the Warrior of Light, and whoever our companions are at the time, approach Herelsvigar, it's like, yeah, I know exactly why you're here, because it's, for somebody as old as me, this is the most obvious play in the playbook. It's so obvious. And then establishes his cruelty and his sadness by crushing all of Lady Iceheart's dreams.
I thought that shit was so fucking funny, dude. Like, it's like some little fangirl that's like written a bunch of fan fiction about some guy, and she sends it to him, and he calls her fat or something like that, right? I mean, like, this guy just completely fucking sent her into oblivion. You know what I mean? Like, it was insane. Like, I was surprised. And I think also, like, another big part of it that really made it interesting, and, like, I don't know really what it would establish. I'd have to really think about it. But the fact that he didn't speak English at all. Like, not English, but you know what I mean? Like, he spoke as a dragon. Like, he never spoke naturally or, like, normally to us directly. I think that added a level of I don't know, like, really, like, he only spoke Draconic. Yeah, exactly. Like, it almost, like, created, like, an air of superiority, dissonance maybe, yeah, disrespect, weight, dominance, yeah, in a way, and mystique too.
You're a shadow of Shiva. You believe you're this big important thing, the love of my life, but you're not. You're not. You're nothing. Shit. You're nothing. Which really to us as characters goes, one, we're not tricking this guy, which is something you would expect in a video game story, is being able to trick the dragon or manipulate him in some way. Nope, not happening whatsoever. And two, this creature does not give a shit about us, like, at all. And then proceeds to, of course, reveal why. Now, this is super important. He tells the truth, which you would expect of a creature of that old to be like, you want my help, because this is Hrelfgar's basic story, right? Is that you want my help. Do you guys know what you did? No. That's the thing. No, we don't. We know what we've been taught, and a lot of it has been left behind or buried, so no, we don't really know what happened. Well, let me lay it down for you then. You know why we're not friends anymore?
This part was really
I even gave you a chance. All right? My love was a human. And you know why we're not friends anymore? It's because you took my sister and your people ripped out her eyes and cannibalized her when we were supposed to be friends. Why? A lust for power. Even though it was the king, the original King Thordan, it wasn't enough. You needed more. We lived in peaceful harmony. We were great together, and you just needed more. And you come to me asking for my help against my brother? You're idiots. And that's such a dominating and a great character establishment, because in that one dialogue scene where he then just leaves us to it, we have a member of our team who was very strong, which would be Isel, crushed into the floor. Not only that, another thing has happened. Estinian now understands that everything he has been raised, everything he's been taught while being raised, is a lie. However, it reaffirms the fact they still need to die, which is a great character point for him. Because the only way this ends is if they die.
Nidhogg dies.
Even if everything I was taught is absolute balls, they still need to die.
Death
and
to
now,
Nidhogg.
I'm the Azure Dragoon. I've been raised to kill them, and I know I'm doing it based on a mistruth, but the reality is they still need to die, and now he needs to deal with that. And we've also established Hrelfgar as a very important character in our first interaction with him. This is great. Now, that similar thing plays out later, but that's going to be the important conversation that's actually a turning point in the Dragonsong War, but that is... There's nobody who walks away from that scene and doesn't respect Hrelfgar immensely and also sympathize with him, right? You can feel it. As soon as you hear that, you're like, okay, he's got a powerful voice, which is a commanding voice, so you're paying attention. And they made such a great decision here in storytelling, which is they did not voice act him. There's voice acting, but it's in Dragon, and you have to read it, which means you're paying so much more attention. And this is a brilliant decision, because you need the player to understand you don't have much time in this character.
Great insight.
So it needs to be paid attention to. So you need to read it. We can't tell it all through cutscenes and video. We need the player to be looking here, not looking at Netflix, not looking at YouTube, not looking at the website. We need to focus on the written word, even though is voice acted, but not in the same way as other characters where you can kind of listen while things are going on. It's a genius decision. And one of the most well-crafted cutscenes in the game, besides the next meeting with Hrelfgar. Let's move over to Sir Emeric then. So, Sir Emeric, they had a tricky thing to do, which is why I loved what they did with him, right? Sir Emeric introduction into A Realm Reborn is not the best. We learn a little bit about Ishgardian's insular society. They make it very clear they want nothing to do with Eorzean problems, and he's very standoffish, he's very solemn, he's very stoic, and he basically says, yeah, I'm here, despite my own feelings. So they do plant that seed that Sir Emeric probably doesn't want it to be insular. He probably does want to open Ishgard's doors. He probably does want to be able to help out with the rest of Eorzea, but he can't.
That's the vibe I got from it, is that this guy, it's like he wanted to kind of move things forward, even though everybody else over there didn't really want to, which is kind of like why he came out there to talk to him. Like that was my opinion.
The leader of the Temple Knights, and he's under strict orders that that's not going to happen, but he does extend an olive branch only because he needs something back. They're going to sort the supplies out, but we need you to check this out. We need you to look into this problem with this Lady Iceheart, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So he's only there to get something for himself, but you believe from the tone of that conversation that if he had the power to extend a hand or to be a bit more friendly, then he would have been. Now, you walk away from that conversation feeling like, he's kind of a bit of a douche. We really needed the help. He didn't help out.
No, he's not a douche, because the reason why Sir Emeric wasn't a douche in this scene and in all of the scenes at the beginning where Sir Emmerich and Alphinaud, is because he put that little fucking pompous Redditor in his place. Like, he put him in his fucking place, man. And I felt so good whenever that happened. I was like, yes, bitch.
What is Ishgard all about? Okay, he's going to help with this, but he still wants something in return. You know, not the best, not somebody you want to, you know, probably be part of your team. Although some people probably did because his armor's really cool. In story terms, you know, he's not particularly trustworthy. But coming into Heavensward, they did one important thing with him. One is they upped his joyfulness in his voice acting. He's not as stoic, probably because we can read into the story side of that, is that Ishgard's opened its doors. We have been welcomed into Ishgard. We've helped out.
It's a good way to look at it.
We've helped out his people. And he actually wants to be able to open the doors. He thinks this is a good thing. So now that's actually happened and there are strangers in Ishgard, then he's probably a little bit more happy in himself. But either way, they changed the voice acting from being as wooden and as serious to somebody who's a little bit more happy. Now, Sir Emmerich, for me, after all this, was the most tragic character in all of Heavensward. Now, some people are going to be like, what? I mean, Heavensward stayed away for all this time and he ripped out his eyeballs and his sister was cannibalized. Why is Sir Emmerich so tragic? Sir Emmerich is so tragic because one of the loneliest characters in the game. We learn very quickly, if at least this is what I get out of it, all right? If you pay attention to it, is Sir Emmerich has no friends besides two. He's surrounded by thousands of people, but he's the lonely clown.
But other people don't like him because people suspect that he's the son of the Archbishop. And also, I think that because of that, a lot of the Highborns did not like him as well because he didn't really fit in with, like, the aristocracy. And the Lowborns didn't like him either. And he's, like, stuck in this weird place in the middle where it's like, what the fuck? And this girl is the only person that really liked him. He's a bastard son, an unfair advantage. Yeah, but, like, he was a bastard son, but nobody, like, as far, if I remember right in the story, the only time, like, Archbishop Thordan tells Sir Emmerich that yes, I am your father. But that was only in private whenever Sir Emmerich wanted to ask him to end the war, basically. Basically, Jon Snow, in a way, sure.
Essentially, in that he chooses his friends so incredibly wisely. And we don't learn of his backstory until much later, is that, you know, he is the son of the Archbishop, but it's not really recognized, and he's been put in this position, and he can't really connect that way.
Nobody talks about it.
And he's also in this position where he's leading the Temple Knights, and he probably doesn't exactly agree with the politics that's going on and the closing of Ishgard.
Yeah.
And he doesn't trust anybody, and it's not surprising, given his upbringing and past, that he really doesn't feel any connection to anybody at all. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Sir Emmerich, despite everybody in Ishgard, for the most part liking his presence and respecting him, has two friends, Lucia, and he wears his friends like armor, and I love this aspect. He chooses his friends like armor. So you've got Lucia, who's essentially his shield, who is somebody who trusts him implicitly, and he trusts her implicitly, and they will never betray each other. And she protects him, and she can be his envoy, and she can do all those things. And Estinian, who is his sword. So he has the sword and shield in both of those. But beyond that,
like Estinian, Sir Emmerich looked up to Estinian whenever they were kids. So they go, like, way, way, way fucking back.
There's no friends. He was raised with Estinian. Yep. And this is why I talked about the Estinian bit earlier on, because the only person who could have really drilled home the importance of what's actually happened and Ishgard's lies is Estinian. If Estinian, who was raised from birth to be this murderer of dragons and to fight for Ishgard, comes back and says, yes, we still need to do that, which we established, but it's all based on lies. The Archbishop's lies, the church has been lying to us, the great houses have been burying the secret. Only Estinian has that power to convince Sir Emmerich as quickly as the story needs. That's why that stuff with Estinian really matters. Even though Sir Emmerich wasn't there, his word means more than anybody.
Yeah.
There is no way he doesn't buy what Estinian is saying. And it also gives him more pain to carry when Estinian is taken by Nidhogg, because that's one of his two friends. It's one of the only two people in his entire life who he can actually trust. Now, the Warrior of Light is brought into this.
That shit was crazy. I did not expect that to happen. I remember whenever Estinian had the eyes, and then he turned into the dragon. I'm gonna be honest, like, that caught me by surprise. Like, I thought that, like, the King Thordan, turning into, Archbishop Thordan turning into King Thordan. I felt like it's like, okay, they've got the Ark of the Covenant that they're effectively moving around, and they're going to channel it to do some kind of crazy shit. I thought that was really cool. I liked also, I think one element of the Heavensward story that's like really not, I feel isn't as focused on, that people don't talk about as much, is how good how good of a character the Archbishop is. Is that, like, the Archbishop basically wants to, like, at the very end, right, whenever he becomes King Thordan, he fucking kills the Ossetian. Just fucking deletes that bitch. And everybody at that time, you know, in the story, everybody fucking hates them. They're the worst thing ever. But he kills them. He betrays them right there, dabs on them. Yeah, dabbing on them haters. And got rid of them. And then on top of that, like what he said to Sir Imric about the people not being able to recognize the end of the Dragon Song War, and that Sir Imric was stupid and that he had to imprison him for his own good. There actually was some truth to that because of all the unrest that happened after the war. So he wasn't totally wrong. And I think that's the best thing about it. Yeah, I really, really like, really like the Archbishop character. Throne fight was so fucking badass. Yeah, it was.
If you want to do the armor analogy, it'd be the actual armor.
Not even for the sake of evil.
That's who we end up being. That's why Sir Emric goes out of his way to have drinks with us. And I know some people see that as a really memey scene, but like, for me,
I gotta take a piss. Look, let me think of an example of like what was that? You know, like there must always be a Lich King. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like another example. Maybe the end of the village. It's kind of a good example of like how basically the people needed an enemy, or it would just the entire fabric of society would collapse. Kind of. Yeah, I'll think about it. I gotta take a piss. Give me a second. The Watchmen. Yeah, I was thinking of Ozymandias. Yeah, I don't know if that was. Yeah, I think that's probably the best. Yeah. I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think the Watchmen's a great example, and the thing is, and the best part about it is that Ozymandias wasn't totally wrong. I think that's the best part of a character like that, is that the malice does have mercy entwined with it. Did you wash the toilet bowl? What do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean by that? Yeah, same like Thanos. Yeah, Thanos is, I use him a lot as an example. And yeah, I think needs an enemy so society doesn't collapse. I was thinking about like I was like taking a piss, right? I was like, is it like the Crusades? Like after, you know, like this is a problem in many cultures with the Crusades. And then also this happened in like Japan as well, where like after all the big wars are over, well, you've still got all these fucking warriors. What the hell do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to go back and just go fucking tend to the goats? Nah, man, they're ready to go back to war. And so there's another crusade, another battle, something like that. Absolutely. All right, let's see here. Apparently there's a WoW expansion leak. I'll look at that afterwards, remind me. Okay, here we go.
There's a really important scene, is that Sir Emric is inviting us into his life. He doesn't do that with anybody. He really doesn't. He has, even though Alphinaud, he respects Alphinaud, but he would never call Alphinaud a friend by any means.
That's a good insight.
Despite his good advice and stuff. He's not a friend. Yeah. He's part of the system. He's part of the cogwheels of everything that's going on with Ishgardian politics. Us, he sees as a friend. He wants some private time, which he doesn't do with anyone else, and the busy schedules and all that. He has no time for anyone else at all. But for us, he does have time. And we would be considered to be the third friend of Sir Emric, which I think is a great touch as well.
I'd say fourth friend, because, I mean, there is Horchefant as well. And like, I feel like Horchefant and everything, like, him and Sir Emmerich were friendly. I would say we're friends.
We have to expand on this guy's pain, though, because we have this choice to make at the end of this with Hrelfgar and Sir Emmerich. It has to matter. And the way they establish that is horrible, horrifying, but it works. One, we need Sir Emmerich to kill his father. And that is so crucial because that's going to pay off so much against Hrelfgar. Patricide, as it's called. We also need to see that Sir Emmerich doesn't really get into a battle, but we also need to see that he's not only suffering the mental pain of knowing that his entire society is built on bullshit. He's expected to resolve it, because that is his position. He's expected to deal with this while still protecting those people, even though knowing it's a lie. He's not as murderous as Estinian towards the dragons. He wants and yearns for peace. And his dad's full of shit, and is definitely up to something.
Yeah.
There's mentions of Ascians now being involved. He has all that mental anguish, which we can see going through, but he's not suffered physically, and they even throw that in by having his own people stab him. This scene, I actually went to YouTube and I was looking at this scene again. And people were like, lol, he got stabbed with his armor on, how did he get through the armor? Yeah, I get that, but it was to show that his own people are now turning against him, which you can expect. What did we just say about Estinian's word to Sir Emmerich? Estinian's the only person who could have convinced Sir Emmerich that what he's saying is true. Yeah. That they did live in peace. And this is all our fault. And we did everything here. The common man is not going to buy that. Bullshit. Yeah, dragons would say that. That would be the feedback. And certainly we've seen over the last couple of years how differing opinions are amongst people. Is that absolutely would have been the case. And there's civil war.
Actually, that lended more weight to what the Archbishop said. Is like, it kind of like the Archbishop's like, yeah, see, I fucking told you, like, this is what's gonna be. It is what it is. He was fucking right.
It's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable to change an entire way of life and a culture, especially in a few seconds. And to see him then physically suffer as well as the mental suffering really gives weight to the tragedy that is this character. And ultimately the eventual chasing down of his father, the loss of Haurchefant, all these moments where people are dying around him, all based on bullshit. And again, once again, that lust for power from humans. And he makes that choice. All that was so beautifully done. And I loved how they changed Sir Emmerich from this kind of standoffish, douchey kind of character who had his own purposes, but probably had good intentions, to a character that was so lost and so wonderful. And by the end of it, you gave such a shit about him because he suffered so much in the path of doing what is right. If this is right, even if it means killing my own father, it is right. And I love that. We come back to Hrelfgar, because once again, and this time, for the first time, Sir Emmerich is coming with us. So we've established him. You know his backstory, you know his past. Estinian is now lost. He's now become Nidhogg. He's lost one of his best friends in the most horrible way. Now he faces the choice that he might have to kill him. They want to save him, but Emmerich is already in the position where it's like, yeah, they're probably going to have to kill him. That's because it's for the right reasons. I can't let other people die to save my friend. I can't do that. So we go back to Hrelfgar. Once again, they do a wonderful touch here, is that Hrelfgar knows exactly why we're there. And everyone has this dumbfounded look on their face, like, oh, you want me to turn against my brothers? After what you people did? Look at everything you've done up until now. Look at it all. Look at everything you people have done. I gave, and Hrelfgar actually gives an important point here. It's like, look, I let my children choose which path they want to walk. But don't drag me into this. I gave up my eye to save my brother. Now, here's the important bit that we learned. Sir Emmerich...
I was always confused by that. I thought if a dragon lost both of their eyes, they would just, like, instantly die. But that's not what happened. And the reason why I thought that is because, like, that's what happened to, like, their sister. And like, obviously they killed her to take her eyes... But with Nidhogg, they got his eyes, not instantly. Yeah, it's like, was he like despawning or something like that whenever Hrelfgar gave him his eye? That's what I'm kind of expecting. It's a slow thing. Yeah, they legitimately ate her body. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that part. Yeah.
Hrelfgar have both had to make the same choice. They both had to decide against family, knowing the repercussions. And in a fit of rage, Hrelfgar went the way of putting people into perpetual torment. An eternity of pain. which is what his brother promised them for killing the sister.
Yep.
An eternity of pain. He knew exactly what Nidhogg wanted.
Yep,
He knew
right
exactly
here.
what the repercussions were. And he gave him his eye so he could carry that out. It's the same choice that Emmerich had with his father. My father yearns for power. He will have everybody die, and the dragons will never stop. But I have a choice to make where I can stop it. And Emmerich go a different way. He chose the path that would lead to peace, even if it meant death for close friends and family. Whereas Hrothgar went the other way. No doubt in grief. I'm not saying he's a bad character or anything, but the grief is there, but you can see the similarity, the parallels between the choices they had to make. Which is what leads to that conversation that I've been talking about since the beginning of the video, and how important it is when Hrothgar is boasting almost how small we are, how we're consumed and fleeting lives and consumed by greed and lust for power and look what you did, all this. Alphinaud does come into here to say, but you did help us, didn't you? You did help us with a cell.
Yeah.
You did help us in Azazlar. There's something in you still. That flicker of good, that flicker of humanity can be good, is still there inside you. It's an important point by Alphinaud. Hrothgar not convinced.
Yeah, that actually caught me off guard whenever he just showed up with Ysael in Alislat to stop the, I was going to say the Empire, the Garleans, the Garlean ship. Yeah, I didn't expect that at all.
Though, but it is there. The hypocrisy is there, is that despite the outward appearance, there is something still inside there. And then we get to the important bit, which is that the conversation between the two, where we have that revelation. It's like, look, you're telling us that we're small and we wouldn't deal with this scenario of having to make this kind of choice that only dragons have to make in the face of such adversity. I made that choice. I chose to kill my father. Why? Because the repercussions of not doing that are so much worse. The same as when you made the choice to help Nidhogg, and you knew the repercussions were an eternity of suffering for the people of Ishgard, an endless murder for people who had no involvement in it whatsoever, and for generations of children born into a world where they were being slaughtered despite having no knowledge or understanding of what it was, all on the basis of your grief and your vengeance, and that man must be bad. I made that choice, and I'm a man.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight that Preach has. I actually never thought about this. Usually, like, I'll have, like, thought about the things that people will bring up in the video ahead of time, but I really never thought about this point, that there's, like, so many parallels between Sir Imric and Hrothgar, right? With, like, having to make that hard decision. So I think that's actually, yeah, that's a really great insight.
And I choose this way. In many ways, I made the tougher decision over the both of us, which is when it clicks and it instantly changes, because Hrothgar has to respect that. And all that build-up over Heavensward to just get to that 30-second moment. That's why I loved it so much. Having that moment really connected with me in such a massive way. And there's great stuff after that, of course. There's the payoff of fighting Nidhogg, and that's all very cool, and rescuing Estinian.
Yeah,
all that is great.
Really cool, yeah.
But for me, the point that made it into my number 2 of my best RPG stories ever was that moment. That build-up, that subtle build-up, the wonderful way they dealt with Hrothgar, because we had such little time with him, but to establish his dominance, his power and his wisdom, and his grief and his vengeance. They are long scenes, but we see Sir Emmerich regularly throughout the game, and have them connect and have this one choice matter in order to turn the tide, because this is when the tide turns. Hrothgar decides to test us because we would need a new dungeon, but also to go and join in the fight and eventually get the payoff we need in terms of the actual battle. But that conversation, that was the conversation that did it for me. I don't know if you guys felt the same way, or whether you think I interpreted some stuff wrong, which is fine, but that's what I got out of it, and I would love to see that. And as long as it's nothing past Heavensward, because we're getting into that next week, I would like to see any other points that you think. I know I didn't mention Haurchefant too much, or the houses and things like that, but that's not particularly relevant in order to where we got to.
I didn't give a shit about that much either.
There you have it. That's why I love this so much. It really did hit home when that conversation of saying we've both been, dragon and man have been in this situation. We both had to make the same choice. You went one way, but I'm telling you now, as man, without that thousands of years of wisdom and dragon kind and eternity and a century passing like a minute, I made a different choice. And deep down inside, you know it's the right choice. And you can understand the weight that both these characters carried. I really hope to see, going forward into Stormblood and Shadowbringers, that Sir Emeric is not as tragic as a character anymore after he made those choices. There's glimpses of that towards the end of the Heavensward story, but obviously the patch after that is moving into the next piece of content. And I'm really excited to see what they do with Sir Emeric in terms of just giving him some joy in his life, because, as I said, he's pretty much the most tragic character in the game for me. All right, thank you for listening, and I'll come back to you if you enjoyed this. We'll talk about some other story points that I found particularly good, even ones I haven't seen yet. See you again, guys.
Yeah, I think this is a really good video. As I said before, this is a type of insight that I've not really thought about myself before. This is a good video. I mean, I think you can tell that I actually really think this was a good video, because I didn't really pause it a whole lot. I just watched and listened. Like, I think that, I liked it a lot. To me, as I said before, I think that the Archbishop and just like the whole process of that was really, really cool. Like descending into that like little core and then fighting the Ascian Prime and doing all of that. I fucking love that. It was so good. And on top of that, just everything else about it was great. It was really enjoyable. Like doing the whole Heavensward questing and all of that. As I said before, it had it was like much more action packed than A Realm Reborn, definitely. Like it was there were like, yeah, of course there were interpersonal stories with Heavensward too, but like that's pretty much all of Realm Reborn was. And yeah, I really, really liked it a lot. And yeah, Sir Emeric is one of my favorite characters. I do feel like, I mean, at the end of Heavensward, I mean, he did kind of, in terms of like leadership, like he was pretty much like in charge of fucking everything. I'm pretty sure, right? Because like, weren't there two different like houses, and he was supposed to be basically like the chairman of the houses or something like that? Yeah, that's what I thought so.